Wait, okay, there we go. All right, well, good evening. We welcome you to In the Blender with Brandon and Madeline Hyman. Again, we have our special guest on tonight, Miss Chaye, which
Hello.
is our middle daughter. Um, we know you guys tuned in last week and we had a lot of fun. We talked about, we asked each other a lot of questions. So we're going to kind of pick up on part two and touch bases back on some of the stuff that we did. But what we're going to do is we're going to start off first by I'm going to read the statistics that we read last week. I'm just going to do a recap of those. I'm just going to read those, run right on through those, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Uh, stat- Statistic number one, I'll let you read.
Younger children are more able to adapt to the blended family structure than older children, and any negative talk about a step parent by a biological parent can create instant resentment.
And you kind of just talked about that a little bit, but they'll have to go back and view.
Yeah.
Okay. So, next one.
56% of children have no contact with their biological father in the first year after a divorce, and 1 in 4 kids have not had contact in 5 years. And then the last statistic that we have is the attitude of both parents play a huge role in how the child will adjust to the blended family. Parents who demonstrate negativity or talk badly about the step parent will make the transition more difficult for their children. When parents do this, children may feel they need to choose sides or keep loyalty to a biological father.
Brandon said, let's talk. Yes, and that's our
Let's
topic
talk.
for tonight is let's talk.
Part 2.
Part two. So we're gonna go back and we're gonna recap on a little few of the questions that we had asked because we want to make it clear to everybody that when we did this we were talking about like in the beginning stages. So we're gonna kind of go from in the beginning and hey Micheline, you having fun down in Atlanta? Um, from then into where we are now. Who's that? So, okay. So the first question that I had asked you last week was what was your initial feeling about your blended father? And, you gave, your answer on that. So where are you now? How would you answer that today?
Okay, so you guys have to look at last week's episode if you did not view it already to get my responses from last week. But for today, my feeling today is completely different from the way that I felt, when we when we first,
and that was what, like almost 20 years ago.
yeah. So it's a lot of time that has passed between my initial feelings and now. And I mean, now I love him with all my heart, and I wouldn't. I would have to say that even though in the beginning things were not, at all what anybody expected, I don't think that I would want a different person to be my blended father. I think that Brandon has instilled a lot of values into my life. He gives excellent advice, and he's always there when I need him, and even when I don't need him, he's there. Or at least when I don't think that I need him,
right.
He's definitely there. He plays a huge role in the person that I am today. And again, when it comes to making like huge decisions in my life, he's probably the first person.
Yeah. Like call him. You'll call him way before you call me. I hear things after. Yeah, did David tell you? No.
Yeah. I'll probably go to him first for a lot of things. His opinion weighs very heavily in my life.
Okay. I had also asked you, did you feel like your blended father was taking me away from you? That was in the beginning. How did you feel as far as the dynamics of that now? Do you feel like you get ample time, or what are your feelings
Yeah,
now over the
so
period?
now this I will
Did she just
reiterate
call me Brandon? Yeah, she called you Brandon, babe.
for the show.
Oh, she said for the show, for the broadcast.
For the show. But so wait, okay, so now I will reiterate this. And initially,
Yeah,
man, he was so far up her tail.
Can you say tail on the broadcast?
Yeah. Listen, man, look, he could tell you what she ate for breakfast, lunch, and dinner 2 months ago. Okay. That's how far he was up there. All right. But no, now I mean he's still, when he's not working, they definitely still spend a lot of time together. But I don't feel as though I have to fight for your time anymore. I mean, if I call you and I can ask you like, oh, well, what are you doing Saturday? It's no longer, oh, well, I have to wait. Like they would have absolutely no plans. Nothing planned out. And I'm like, oh, Mom, let's go, to lunch. And she's like, I have to see what he's doing. And then all of a sudden, now he wants to go to lunch. We going to lunch. You wasn't about to go to lunch. But no, I don't have to. I don't have to fight, at all. I don't think anyway.
Okay. Another question I had asked you was there a time when you felt like your blended father was trying to take the place of your biological father? Do you feel any different now about your
No. Last week my answer was no. This week my answer is no. I've never felt like he tried to take the place of my dad. I will say that he has stepped up tremendously. Well, I wouldn't even say step up because he's always been there, but the only reason I say step up is because, he was there during important events and important times of my life where my dad was not. Mm-hmm. So to have a man who is not your biological father to be there for you in the way that your own dad isn't, I think that's very honorable. Very honorable. And I mean, back then I don't think that like sometimes, I don't believe that I felt that it was that much of it didn't seem like it was that important then. Right. But when I, some things like now, what I will say from day one is like when my dad didn't show up to my high school graduation, he was there. Like there was no doubt about that. And I was very grateful for that. I mean, of course I was hurt that my dad wasn't there, but like I said, to have someone else be there for you in that capacity when they don't necessarily have to, everything that he's done, good, bad, or indifferent, has always been a choice. You know what I'm saying? Right. He didn't have to do it out of obligation. It wasn't out of obligation. Everything that he's done was out of choice, was his choice. My graduation from basic training. Yeah. My mother would not get on a plane. They drove 12 hours to Illinois to come see
Lamar.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Black and Married with Kids. I love that site. Hello, Lamar. Thank you for that site. It's given me a lot of insight on some things. I'm sorry. Okay. So, yeah. So, my graduations, those have been, when they towed your car and on his birthday, and I need my that was a long time ago. I'm gonna need you to eat that cost.
You're welcome, Lamar.
You need to eat up that cost, okay? That's part of being my father. There are some things that you just won't get back.
And that money is one of them.
That was an investment.
There you go.
Okay.
All right. So was you finish your point?
Yeah, just that I mean, the graduations weren't the only things, but those were the two big things initially. Coming out of a not so great place for us. Those were two of the things that he did that meant a lot to me at that time, to show me that he really did care about me.
Right.
Because
right.
again, it wasn't out of obligation. He made the decision to be there for me in that way.
Right.
So.
Okay. What was your most challenging moment growing up in the blended family? We kind of, I don't know if it would be any different from like then and now. You know what I mean?
Because now, we all live our own lives. We all, we all have our own families. We all working, we have things going on. Mm-hmm. So no, I mean, they're really, I don't have any real challenges now. Because when I call, he answers.
Right.
If I need something, he's there.
Right.
Or he gives it to me. And most of the time, like I said, it's mostly advice.
Right.
I need some advice. One thing that I will say is that from beginning all the way up until this point, mm-hmm. He was very level-headed. When speaking to him or discussing certain things with him, and this is sometimes why I talk to him before I talk to you, because as a woman, we are more emotional. Yeah. And there are times where, I am my mother's child. So sometimes things that I think, if I go to her, she thinks the same exact thing. And I'm not saying that it's wrong, but I want to make sure I get a different viewpoint. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that's why I go to him, and he's able to look at things in multiple ways.
Right.
Sometimes it's not just a different viewpoint, but he's able to see where I'm coming from, where someone else may be coming from,
yes.
And then a third view as to, okay, this is why maybe you think this way and that person think that way, and how to resolve it. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So I think that that's one of my favorite things about him, or favorite traits. The fact that he's very level-headed and can really direct me down the right path. Right. Because now this is what I will say. There were times in my life where I had a decent relationship with my biological father, and I would go to him sometimes about things, but his advice wasn't always the best advice. You know what I mean? And then, he is a believer of Christ, but he does not, attend church like that. And he don't always use the Bible as his background for, giving. This is my biological dad for giving advice. Right. So that's another thing, I don't do everything right, but I try to live my life the best way that I know how. And I still struggle with things, people, but he definitely gives me the best advice, backed up with the word. So
there you go. So what are some of your most memorable moments with your blended father? And start from maybe a couple from when you were younger, and then midway through.
Hold on. So good memories or bad memories, or started with not so great memories to
how so you
memories.
you can show like how it started one way, but how you lived out and you walking in victory in this blended family now. Because sometimes people get stuck on, oh, it was all bad. And, you stay right there. But we don't have that testimony that it was all bad and that's where we were. It started off one way, but we're all walking in victory now. We've succeeded. We're almost 20 years in.
Yeah.
And you're a grown lady now. When he first came into the picture, you were only 13 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a lot of history, in this.
There is. And, okay. So, this one.
Oh, no. I don't know what she's going to say, y'all.
This one. Listen, y'all. So, one weekend.
And how long? This was years ago.
This was a long time ago. I think my niece Deja was about 3 or 4. And we had a revival at church, or we were at someone else's church. It was a Friday night.
I don't know what
I had just got my hair done. I told you my mother was always requesting for my niece to come over, but she never watched her. I always had to watch her. So I was working at McDonald's. Lies. Satan, I rebuke you. So okay, sorry. All right,
this is gonna be her last time being my special guest.
So real quick, all right. So I was working at McDonald's. I had just got my hair done, and and we had to go to church, and so I had my umbrella. I had to get my niece together. We used to drive the van and pick people up so that they can get back and forth to church. And so we make it to church just fine. When it was time to leave, he's telling me,
we got home, hadn't we?
Wait, not this part.
Oh.
This is where it initiated.
Oh, okay.
We were about to leave.
Too much time
I know that's
because
what
I
I'm
want you to...
Okay, we were about to leave, and he told me to get my mom. But you know how y'all are after church. People just running their mouths, and the kids can't ever like, hey, mom, I'm standing here for like 2 hours. I'm trying to get your attention. I said, excuse me, but she ignored me like she always do when she talking to people at church. So he fussing at me because I can't get her attention. So he tells me to go take my niece to the car. Again, I just got my hair done. It's raining outside. I'm trying to put up the umbrella. My niece is standing at the edge of the sidewalk. She stepped down into the parking lot between 2 parked cars. He's yelling, get her out of the street. And I'm like, well, I'm trying to get the umbrella up. So he fussing at me. We going back and forth because this was during the time that I didn't really care much, for what he had to say because he was always fussing about something. So we arguing back and forth. And, he mad because we in front of church folk.
See, I don't remember that. What was
because
that?
You were talking.
Oh.
So we in front of church.
The most memorable. You remember this?
Yes, man. And when I got home, I got when I got to the top of the stairs and you was in the bathroom and he was choking.
Yes.
And we was at the top of the stairs. She was always in the bathroom when something bad happened. But we were at the top of the stairs and he picked me up and I was banging him in his head. It was bad, yo. It was really bad. We
were in there. Praise God. Yes,
fighting.
Jennifer.
I was being rebellious and he was being hard-headed too. But
all along, I ain't know nothing. And
she didn't know what was going on. She was in the bathroom. She come out like, what's going on up there? And I don't remember how things died down, but I ran away the next day after they went to church.
And she came back
like 3 days later. But so that was one of the most memorable moments way back then when I was younger. But it was but that wasn't one of the good moments, and one of my, actually, I mean, I have quite a few really,
yeah.
really, really good moments. Again, the first one that impacted me the most was him coming to my graduation. And like I said, just the fact that my dad, my biological father was not there, that meant a lot to me. Another memorable, very, very memorable moment is the fact that, even though, I know that he's not my biological father, he doesn't treat me like I'm a stepchild. And even more than that, my children are literally his grandchildren. He, like I said, he doesn't treat them any differently. I remember there was a time that I was staying with them after I had my son, and I was going through like really bad postpartum depression. Mommy never experienced that, so she didn't fully understand like what I was going through or what I was dealing with. But he was definitely there. Like times where I felt like I couldn't really do much for my son or give him, the attention that he needed, and the fact that, he was colicky and he was a crybaby all the time.
He cried all
and
the
then
time.
He had issues using the bathroom, so we spent a lot of time in the hospital. But it would be like 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and my son would be crying, and I would be ready to take him and throw him against the wall. And Brandon would literally come in there. He would take him from me for a couple hours. And I mean, he would have to get up at like 5 o'clock to get ready for work. And I was home all day, but he would come, go in the living room with him, and bring him back after, he fell asleep. And those things are memories, like real memories. Those are things that I truly, truly appreciate. And I don't even think I've ever told him how much I appreciate, like those things, again, the advice that he gives, it's great advice. It's something that I hold near and dear. And the next memory that I'm really looking forward to is the day that he'll walk me down the aisle whenever I get mad. I was about to say mad. Get married, God willing.
I did buy your graduation dress and shoes. I bought it. No, he bought it.
Actually, yeah, he did. He definitely bought the dress and shoes. Definitely.
He want everybody to know he bought your dress and shoes.
He did buy the dress and shoes because Mommy made me buy my own pictures.
You're supposed to be talking about your blended parent, not your biological mother. This is not talking about Madeline. This is talking about Brandon.
No, but yeah. But he bought my dress. He bought my shoes, and I mean, and then like I said, just the conversation that we had the day of that graduation.
And I know that you, when me and you were talking, you had mentioned the fact that even with everything where he didn't make the best decisions, it was a time that he came back to you.
Oh, man, yeah. So listen. So, okay. One thing that I have to commend him for more than anything is, like she said, this was a while ago where I had expressed to her that one of the things that just, I mean, it made me cry because, like, everyone do things to, that may hurt you or that may bother you. And not everyone comes back to apologize for those things. And I believe that I'm a pretty forgiving person, but he came back some years ago. He came back after he realized some of the decisions that, he made were not the best decisions or how he handled things. And he truly apologized. Like, I believe the conversation we had was a couple hours long where he kind of outlined. It wasn't just like, oh, everything that happened way back when, that you didn't like, I'm sorry, blah, blah, blah. No, he detailed things out. This is what I realized that I've done wrong. This is how, I want to move forward. I truly am sorry for, any hurt, any pain that I may have caused you. And it does make you a stronger person, but sometimes, you would have rather just not gone through, certain things or whatever.
Right.
But his apology meant a lot.